Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to change yourself, the more elusive transformation becomes? There's a reason for this, and once you see it, everything shifts. Let me show you what I mean. What if everything you've been told about personal transformation is not just wrong, but actually keeping you trapped? In the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that might sound impossible at first, but by the end, you'll understand why struggling against yourself might actually be your greatest obstacle to becoming who you're meant to be. The people who effortlessly reinvent themselves know something that the rest of us are missing. It's not what you think, and it's definitely not what they teach in personal development courses. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Most people believe that reinvention requires months or years of grinding discipline, forcing new habits, and fighting against their old self. But what if I told you that profound transformation can happen in just 7 days? Not through willpower or force, but by working with the natural intelligence of change itself. In the next few minutes, you'll discover a 7-day process that works with your authentic nature rather than against it. By the end, you'll understand why this approach isn't just possible, but inevitable when you align with the deeper principles of how transformation actually works. The change trap. Have you noticed how most people approach personal transformation like they're going to war with themselves? They create elaborate battle plans, set up systems of punishment and reward, and treat their current self like an enemy that must be defeated. Then they wonder why change feels so exhausting and why they keep sliding back into old patterns. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface that most of us miss because we're focused on trying to force ourselves to be different. Sarah sat in her car outside the gym for the 3rd time that week, unable to make herself go inside. She had signed up for a membership, bought new workout clothes, even hired a personal trainer. But every time she tried to push herself through those doors, something inside her rebelled. She felt frustrated, weak, like she was failing at something that should be simple. What Sarah didn't realize is that she wasn't failing at all. She was experiencing the natural resistance that occurs when we try to change through force rather than alignment. Her system was trying to tell her something important, but she was too busy judging herself to listen. This is the compassionate truth that no one talks about. When change feels like a struggle, it's not because you're weak or undisciplined. It's because you're working against the natural flow of transformation rather than with it. You're trying to swim upstream instead of allowing the current to carry you where you want to go. The conventional approach to reinvention treats your current self as the problem that needs to be fixed. It assumes that lasting change happens through willpower, through grinding determination, through pushing past resistance. But resistance isn't something to overcome. It's information. It's your inner wisdom telling you that you're approaching change in a way that doesn't honor your authentic nature. When we try to force transformation, we create internal conflict. Part of us wants to grow and evolve, while another part wants to stay safe and familiar. This battle is exhausting and ultimately unsustainable. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. But there's something deeper happening here. We've been conditioned to believe that our current self is fixed, permanent, unchangeable. We identify so strongly with our patterns, our limitations, our stories about who we are that we can't imagine being any different. We say things like, "I'm just not a morning person," or "I've always been disorganized," as if these are eternal truths about our identity. What if everything you think you know about who you are is just a collection of habits that you've been unconsciously repeating? What if the you think you are is actually just yesterday's choices showing up as today's automatic responses? Like a river that's been temporarily blocked by fallen trees, your authentic self knows exactly how to flow once the obstacles are removed. The water doesn't need to learn how to be a river, it already is one. It just needs the debris cleared away. Natural intelligence. There's something miraculous happening all around us every moment that reveals the secret of effortless transformation. Trees don't struggle to grow, rivers don't force their way to the ocean, caterpillars don't use willpower to become butterflies, flowers don't try to bloom, they simply respond to the natural conditions that allow blooming to happen. Nature transforms through an intelligence that's both purposeful and effortless. It follows natural rhythms, responds to changing conditions, and allows change to emerge organically when the time is right. This same intelligence is available for your personal transformation. Let me tell you about Marcus, a successful architect who felt completely disconnected from his work and his life. For years, he had tried every productivity system, self-help program, and life coaching approach he could find. He would make progress for a while, then inevitably slide back into the same patterns of stress, overwhelm, and emptiness. When Marcus came to work with me, he was exhausted from trying so hard to change. He felt like he had failed at becoming the person he wanted to be. I introduced him to what I called the natural transformation method, the understanding that real change happens not through force, but through creating optimal conditions for your authentic self to emerge. Instead of trying to become someone different, Marcus began to simply observe who he was without judgment. He noticed his patterns, his reactions, his automatic responses, not to change them, but simply to see them clearly with compassion and curiosity. Something remarkable began to happen. As Marcus developed this quality of gentle awareness, the patterns that had seemed so solid and permanent began to feel more fluid and optional. He started making different choices without effort or struggle. He found himself saying no to projects that drained his energy and yes to opportunities that excited him. He began having conversations he had been avoiding and exploring interests that had been dormant for years. The transformation wasn't dramatic or forced. It was subtle, organic, and sustainable. Within a week, he felt like he was living a completely different life, not because he had forced himself to change, but because he had allowed his authentic self to emerge from beneath layers of conditioning and habit. This reveals something profound about the nature of transformation. Your authentic self isn't something you need to create or become. It's something you need to uncover and allow to express itself naturally. The key insight here is that you're already changing every moment, whether you realize it or not. Your cells are regenerating, your thoughts are evolving, your understanding is deepening. The question isn't whether you're changing, the question is whether you're directing that change consciously or letting it happen randomly. When you work with the natural intelligence of transformation, change stops being something you do and becomes something you allow. Like a skilled sailor who doesn't fight against the wind but adjusts the sails to harness its power, you learn to work with the forces of change rather than against them. 7-day emergence. Here's what transforms everything about personal reinvention. Most people try to change by focusing on behavior modification. They try to change what they do without changing who they are. But lasting transformation happens in the opposite direction. When you align with who you authentically are, your behaviors naturally shift to match that alignment. The 7-day process I'm about to share works with 4 natural phases of transformation, each building on the previous one. Think of it like the changing of seasons. Each phase has its own purpose, its own rhythm, its own gifts. While most people exhaust themselves trying to force change through willpower and discipline, true transformation happens when you remove the obstacles that are blocking your natural evolution. It's not about adding more effort, it's about subtracting what isn't serving you. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a marketing executive who felt trapped in a life that looked successful from the outside but felt empty and meaningless on the inside. She had tried traditional goal-setting approaches, habit-tracking apps, and motivational programs, but nothing created lasting change. She would make temporary improvements, then find herself back in the same patterns of stress and dissatisfaction. When Jennifer started the 7-day process, she was skeptical that anything could shift in such a short time, but she was also desperate enough to try something different. The first thing she noticed was how much mental energy she had been wasting on self-criticism and trying to force herself to be different. On day 1, instead of trying to change anything, Jennifer simply began observing her thoughts and reactions with curiosity rather than judgment. She noticed how her inner critic was constantly commenting on everything she did, how she felt anxious whenever she wasn't being productive, how she automatically said yes to requests even when she wanted to say no.
By day 3, something interesting started happening. The patterns she had been observing began to feel less solid and automatic. She found herself pausing before reacting, choosing her responses rather than being driven by habit. She started saying no to commitments that drained her energy without feeling guilty about it.
By day 5, Jennifer felt like she was living in a completely different inner world. She was making choices based on what felt authentic and energizing, rather than what she thought she should do. She was having conversations she had been avoiding and exploring creative projects that had been calling to her for years. This reveals the deeper principle at work. When you stop fighting against yourself and start aligning with your authentic nature, transformation becomes effortless and sustainable. The 7-day process works because it honors the natural rhythm of how change actually happens. Like a plant that doesn't grow by forcing itself, but by receiving the right conditions of water, sunlight, and nutrients, your authentic self emerges when you create the optimal conditions for transformation. Foundation 1. The first foundation of natural transformation is developing what I call compassionate awareness, the ability to observe yourself with curiosity rather than criticism. This shift alone is revolutionary because it removes the internal resistance that sabotages most change efforts. Most people relate to themselves like a harsh boss who's constantly pointing out what's wrong and demanding improvement. But imagine trying to learn and grow in an environment where you're constantly being criticized and judged. It would be impossible. The same thing happens when your inner relationship is based on judgment rather than curiosity. Compassionate awareness means looking at yourself with the same gentle interest you might have when watching a bird build its nest or observing a child discover something new. There's no agenda to fix or improve anything. There's simply the willingness to see what's actually happening without immediately trying to change it. For the first 2 days of the process, your only job is to notice. Notice your thoughts without trying to think differently. Notice your emotions without judging them as good or bad. Notice your reactions without immediately trying to improve them. This might sound passive, but it's actually incredibly powerful. When you observe your patterns without resistance, something miraculous happens. The patterns begin to lose their unconscious grip on you. Things that used to happen automatically start happening with more space and awareness around them. You begin to see that you have choices where you previously felt trapped. Start with simple observation practices throughout your day. Set gentle reminders to pause and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? What am I believing about this situation? Don't try to have different thoughts or feelings, just notice what's present with kindness. Pay attention to your internal dialogue, the constant stream of commentary, judgment, and stories that run through your mind. Notice the tone of your inner voice. Is it encouraging or critical, supportive or demanding, curious or judgmental? How would you feel if someone spoke to you the way you speak to yourself? Also observe your energy patterns throughout the day. When do you feel most alive and authentic? When do you feel drained or disconnected? What activities, people, or environments naturally energize you? What depletes you? What makes you lose track of time because you're so engaged? Notice your automatic responses to different situations. How do you typically react to stress, to criticism, to unexpected changes, to success, to disappointment? Don't try to react differently, just see your patterns clearly without judgment. This phase is about building trust with yourself. When you observe yourself without criticism, you create safety for your authentic self to reveal itself. It's like creating a sanctuary where all parts of you are welcome and accepted, even the parts you've been trying to change or hide. Many people are surprised by what they discover during this phase. They realize they've been running on autopilot for years, reacting to life from unconscious programming rather than conscious choice. They see how much mental energy has been wasted on worry, self-criticism, and trying to control things beyond their influence. But they also discover beautiful aspects of themselves that have been hidden beneath the noise of constant self-improvement efforts. Natural wisdom that emerges when the mental chatter quiets down. Genuine preferences that have been buried under layers of shoulds and supposed tos. Creative impulses that have been waiting for permission to express themselves. The key insight of this foundation is that awareness itself is transformative. You don't need to do anything with what you observe. Simply seeing your patterns clearly with compassion begins to dissolve their unconscious power over you. Foundation 2. Once you've developed the capacity to observe yourself with compassion, the second foundation involves allowing what no longer serves you to fall away naturally. This isn't about forcing yourself to give up habits or beliefs. It's about recognizing what's ready to be released and creating space for it to dissolve organically. Think of this process like cleaning out a closet that hasn't been organized in years. Some items you haven't worn in ages and can easily let go of. Others have sentimental value but no longer fit your current lifestyle. And some pieces still serve you perfectly. The key is distinguishing between what's alive and useful versus what's simply taking up space out of habit. During days 3 and 4, you'll begin to notice thoughts, beliefs, and patterns that feel heavy, constricting, or inauthentic. These might be stories you've been telling yourself about your limitations, expectations you've inherited from others, or ways of being that once protected you but now hold you back. The release process works through gentle inquiry rather than forced elimination. When you notice a limiting belief or restrictive pattern, simply ask yourself, is this still true for me? Does this serve who I'm becoming? What would it feel like to let this go? Sometimes the answer will be immediate and clear. Other times you might need to sit with the question and trust your inner knowing. Many people discover that they've been carrying beliefs and expectations that were never truly theirs to begin with. Perhaps you absorbed your family's ideas about money, success, or relationships. Maybe you internalized messages from teachers, peers, or society about what's possible for someone like you. These inherited limitations often feel so familiar that we mistake them for absolute truths. As you recognize these borrowed beliefs, you can begin to question their validity for your unique life. Just because something was true for someone else doesn't mean it has to be true for you. Just because you believed something in the past doesn't mean you have to continue believing it now. The release process is often accompanied by a sense of lightness and expansion. As old patterns dissolve, you'll feel more space inside yourself. You might notice that certain situations that used to trigger strong reactions now feel neutral. Things that once seemed impossible might start feeling possible. One of my clients, David, discovered during this phase that he had been living according to his father's definition of success for his entire adult life. He was pursuing career achievements that looked impressive from the outside but felt empty and meaningless to him personally. As he released this inherited programming, he felt both terrified and liberated. The terror came from stepping into the unknown. The liberation came from finally being free to discover what success meant to him. Another client, Lisa, realized she had been carrying her mother's fear of taking risks. Every time an opportunity for growth appeared, she would hear her mother's voice warning her to play it safe and not get her hopes up. As she recognized this wasn't her own wisdom but inherited anxiety, she began to feel her natural courage emerging. Be patient with this process. Some patterns release immediately while others need more time to dissolve. You might experience some emotional intensity as old material comes up to be cleared. This is normal and healthy. It's like cleaning out a wound so it can heal properly. Trust that everything is emerging in perfect timing. The key insight of this foundation is that most of what you think you are is actually just accumulated patterns that can be released when they no longer serve you. Beneath these layers of conditioning is your authentic self, waiting to be rediscovered. Foundation 3. With space created through release, the third foundation involves aligning with your authentic values, desires, and natural way of being. This is where you begin to sense what wants to emerge in your life and start making choices that honor your true nature. Authentic alignment isn't about following someone else's blueprint for success or happiness. It's about tuning into your own inner guidance system and trusting what feels genuinely right for you. This requires developing sensitivity to your own natural rhythms, preferences, and ways of being in the world. During days 5 and 6, pay close attention to what naturally energizes and excites you.
What activities make you lose track of time? What conversations light you up? What environments make you feel most like yourself? These are clues to your authentic alignment, breadcrumbs leading you back to your true nature. Also notice what feels forced or draining. What are you doing out of obligation rather than genuine desire? What expectations are you trying to meet that don't resonate with your values? What roles are you playing that feel inauthentic or exhausting? Begin making small adjustments in the direction of greater alignment. This might mean saying no to commitments that drain you, spending more time on activities that energize you, or expressing yourself more authentically in your relationships. These don't have to be dramatic changes. Often, the smallest shifts create the most profound transformations.
Trust your natural preferences rather than fighting against them. If you're naturally introverted, honor your need for solitude rather than forcing yourself to be more social. If you're naturally creative, make space for creative expression rather than suppressing it for more practical pursuits. If you're naturally collaborative, seek out partnerships rather than trying to do everything alone. Pay attention to your values, not the values you think you should have, but the ones that actually guide your choices when you're being most authentic. What matters most to you? What principles do you want your life to reflect? How can you align your daily choices with these deeper values? Sometimes, authentic alignment requires you to disappoint others or let go of external validation. This can feel scary at first, but it's essential for genuine transformation. When you live in alignment with your authentic self, you naturally attract people and opportunities that resonate with who you really are. I remember working with Sarah, who realized during this phase that she had been trying to be the perfect daughter her entire life, making choices based on what would make her parents proud rather than what felt right to her. As she began aligning with her own values and desires, some relationships became strained, but she also found herself connecting with people who appreciated her authentic self in ways she had never experienced before. Another client, Michael, discovered that he had been pursuing financial success because he thought it would make him happy, but what he really valued was creative expression and meaningful contribution. As he began aligning his work with these authentic values, his income actually increased because he was finally using his natural gifts. The key insight here is that alignment isn't a destination, it's an ongoing practice. Every choice you make is an opportunity to either move toward or away from your authentic self. The more you practice choosing alignment, the more natural and effortless it becomes. Your authentic self has its own unique way of expressing in the world. It has preferences, talents, and ways of contributing that are distinctly yours. When you align with this authentic expression, you stop trying to be like someone else and start becoming who you're meant to be. Foundation 4. The fourth foundation brings together all the insights and shifts from the previous days into a cohesive new way of being. This is where transformation becomes embodied and sustainable rather than just intellectual understanding. Integration happens through consistent small actions that express your authentic self in daily life. It's not about making dramatic gestures or sudden life changes. It's about allowing your new understanding to inform your choices, conversations, and way of being in the world. By day 7, you'll likely feel different in subtle but significant ways. Your nervous system will have recalibrated to a new baseline of authenticity. What once felt foreign or challenging will start feeling natural and easy. You might notice that you speak differently, with more authenticity and less need to impress or please others. You might find yourself making different choices about how you spend your time and energy. Your relationships might shift as you show up more genuinely. Some people might be drawn to your increased authenticity, while others might feel uncomfortable with your changes. Both responses are normal and healthy. The key to sustainable integration is gentleness and patience. Allow your transformation to stabilize naturally rather than rushing to make external changes. Sometimes the most profound shifts happen invisibly in the quality of your presence and awareness. Create simple daily practices that support your continued growth and authenticity. This might be a few minutes of morning reflection, regular check-ins with yourself throughout the day, or evening gratitude for the changes you're experiencing. These practices help anchor your transformation and keep you connected to your authentic self. Remember that transformation is an ongoing process rather than a destination. The 7 days create a foundation and momentum for continued growth. Trust that as you continue to honor your authentic self, your life will naturally evolve to reflect who you're becoming. Integration also means learning to navigate the world from your new center of authenticity. You might find that some people in your life respond positively to your changes, while others feel threatened or confused. This is natural. As you transform, you give others permission to do the same, but not everyone is ready for that invitation. Stay committed to your authentic path even when it feels challenging. The temporary discomfort of living authentically is far preferable to the chronic dissatisfaction of living someone else's life. Your authentic expression is not only valid, but necessary. The world needs what you have to offer. Natural momentum. One of the most beautiful aspects of natural transformation is how it creates its own momentum. When you begin living from your authentic self, you discover that change stops being something you have to force and becomes something that happens organically. Your relationships become more genuine and meaningful. People who resonate with your authentic self are naturally drawn closer, while relationships built on false personas gradually fade away. This might feel scary at first, but it ultimately leads to much deeper and more satisfying connections. Your work begins to align with your values and natural gifts. You might find new opportunities emerging that you never noticed before, or you might discover ways to bring more authenticity to your current role. When you're aligned with your true nature, you naturally excel because you're working with your strengths rather than against them. Your creative expression flourishes. Many people discover artistic, intellectual, or innovative capacities they never knew they had. When you're no longer using your energy to maintain false personas, that energy becomes available for genuine creativity and contribution. Your health often improves as stress decreases and vitality increases. Living authentically is profoundly healing because it eliminates the inner conflict between who you are and who you're pretending to be. This alignment creates a natural state of well-being that supports your overall health. You begin to trust your intuition and inner guidance more deeply. As you practice listening to your authentic self, you develop confidence in your ability to make decisions that are right for you. You stop looking outside yourself for validation and start trusting your own inner knowing.
Sustainable evolution. The 7-day process creates powerful momentum for transformation, but the real journey is just beginning. You've learned to work with the natural intelligence of change rather than against it. You've developed tools for ongoing growth and authentic expression that will serve you for a lifetime. Your reinvention isn't about becoming someone different, it's about becoming more fully yourself. When you align with this truth, transformation stops being the struggle and becomes a natural expression of your deepest nature. The process works because it honors the natural intelligence of change rather than fighting against it. Like a river that knows exactly how to flow toward the ocean, your authentic self knows exactly how to express itself in the world. Your job isn't to force this expression, but to remove the obstacles and allow it to emerge. As you move forward from these 7 days, remember that transformation is not about perfection or having it all figured out. It's about showing up authentically to your life, moment by moment, choice by choice. It's about trusting the process, trusting yourself, and trusting that your authentic expression is exactly what the world needs from you. You now have the tools and understanding to continue this journey of authentic transformation. You know how to observe yourself with compassion, release what no longer serves you, align with your authentic nature, and integrate these changes into your daily life. The person you're becoming has been waiting inside you all along. These 7 days simply created the conditions for that person to step forward and take their rightful place in your life. This is not the end of your transformation. It's the beginning of a lifetime of authentic evolution. Trust the process that has brought you this far. Trust the wisdom that emerges when you align with your authentic self. And most importantly, trust that you have everything within you to create the life you're meant to live. Your journey of reinvention continues with every choice you make. Every moment you choose authenticity over pretense, every time you trust your inner knowing over external expectations. You are not becoming someone new, you are finally becoming yourself. The 7 days have shown you that transformation doesn't require force or struggle. It requires alignment, patience, and trust in your natural capacity for growth and evolution. As you move forward, carry this understanding with you. You already are who you're meant to be. You're simply removing everything that isn't you and allowing your authentic self to shine through. Welcome home to yourself. Your real life is just beginning.